Hey everyone, welcome to Friday the 13th, my favorite day. This is This Old Dog House Logistics Podcast. I am your host, the Bodacious Cowboy. Alongside me is another really good co-host, John Brewer. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing good for Friday the 13th. Jeff, how about you?
You know what? I have absolutely no complaints. I've been really busy this week. I know you have been as well. We were just talking to our guest. Can't wait to bring him on. He's a good friend of mine. We're going to have Peter's Brothers Trucking join us in 1 minute. But, I wanted to get this carrier on board. They've been in business for a while. He'll talk about it. This is one of the good guys. Have done a lot of stuff for me on my Life Lift One a relief drive down in Western North Carolina that knocked it out of the park. You know, some carriers are just carriers, and some carriers are more than just carriers, if you know what I mean.
Yep, sure do. Absolutely.
So you know what?
You'll hear me say this more than once. I always tell people to separate themselves from the pack, and being more than just a carrier will definitely separate you from the pack.
Absolutely. And this gentleman is one of those type of people that do exactly what you just said. So let's bring him in. Brad.
Morning, gentlemen.
How are you, sir?
Good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on board. Thanks for joining us. I know that you're really busy. For those who are watching, why don't you tell everybody about your business, how long you've been in the business, and what you do?
All right, so I'm with Peter's Brothers Trucking. We're based out of Lenhartsville, Pennsylvania, about an hour west of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Family-owned trucking company, been in business 75 years, have 75 trucks, 120 trailers, terminal here and in Jefferson, Wisconsin. We specialize in refrigerated LTL to the entire lower 48, as well as temperature-controlled truckload all over the country. We go everywhere that food is needed. So everywhere in the United States.
Nice. And this was your grandfather's business, right?
This was when. So when it started, it was two brothers. The main focus was the local butcher shop, and then they put on a trucking company to bring in live animals from all over the country, butcher, and then redistribute. Then the brothers sold to the sons, and the son, Jerry Peters, he was the longtime owner here, which is actually my dad's uncle. They did that, still pushed the meat and butcher shop. And then in about the 90s, my dad, Brian Warner, came on board, and they slowly made the transition into temperature-controlled freight. And he's worked here, my dad, for 30 years and just took ownership of the company last January. And he's been building it for about the last 30 years. So to answer the question, it's my great uncle that, started the whole thing or has taken it to what it was in the 90s. My dad came on, worked for his great uncle after working for Carolina and a couple of them other big freight companies, came here, made the switch over into temperature controlled. And for the last 7 years I've been here, helping out and trying to push the envelope on what we do and continue to grow. And we've been about as successful as you can be in trucking right about now. So all that is kudos to our excellent staff. We have probably the best driver pool in the country out there, best support staff, mechanics. One thing we try to embody, no matter how big we grow, we embody the family company. So you'll catch us out there doing anything we can for anybody, especially the people we work with. Here we go with the thought process of we don't have people that work for us. We have people we work with. So it's definitely a family focused operation, and the people we work with definitely embody that as well. So that's who we are.
Yeah, I can concur because I've met a few of your drivers and worked with them when I was loading a couple of their trailers on my relief drive, which you helped me out with, which was just unbelievable. And I was just talking earlier that there's some carriers out there who are just carriers, and then there's carriers out there who go beyond just being carriers. They're thoughtful people. They help other people. They give back to the communities. They give back to places that they've never worked with to help them, with supplies and needs like you guys did for me. I mean, you have some of the best drivers out there, very respectful, just honest souls, as I would call them.
Yeah, they are. We've had everybody with your mission and the going down to North Carolina to provide the relief. We had a ton of drivers that just say, hey, you don't even have to pay me. I'll just go down. I'll do it for free. I just want to help. Naturally, we said, hey, we appreciate that, but you're not doing it for free. And we got guys, we just got done. Tomorrow's the last stop we have. We participate in Rees Across America. So we go up, we got a load. We got 2 loads this year, but our big one, the one we foot stomp is we go up to Maine, get the Rees, come down. We have 10 stops all throughout Eastern and Central Pennsylvania. And we work closely with the people up there at Rees Across America. And they say, hey, here's churches or cemeteries that are looking for it. Can we put all these stops on you? And we say, yeah, absolutely. And we bring it down here to our dock and split them up. And then we work closely with the individuals all over that are, they get volunteers, Boy Scouts, church members, all sorts of stuff. And I think what's really cool about us is we obviously have plenty of drivers that are willing to help go unload wreaths, go do what they got to do. And a lot of these people are really pleased when we say, hey, you guys tell us when you want it. I mean, we work around an industry where they tell us when they want it regardless. So to go make it life a little easier for 10 of these stops to help get them their wreaths before this coming Saturday, it's phenomenal. And yeah, going back to the drivers that we have, I mean, we have to keep taking on more loads because these guys just want to keep helping, want to get out there, want to take pride in what they do, wash their trucks, shine it up, out there in the back, handing stuff off. It speaks volumes to who we are.
That's awesome, man. That's incredible. That is, I'm a big proponent of that as well. That's kind of part of my servant leadership model is giving back. And anytime I hear stories like that, it just warms my heart. I mean, it really does. You hear, if you watch media or you watch the news, you hear every negative thing that's out there, and to hear these positive stories come to light. I was actually listening on the radio yesterday, and I heard a story. This kid, he's mentally handicapped, but he was going to, I don't know if you guys have Chuck E. Cheese up there, but it's basically just pizzeria and arcade kind of thing. And you win the kids win the tickets, and then they go trade the tickets in for the toys. And this kid was on a mission a few years ago to get 1 million Chuck E. Cheese tickets. And he didn't want them for himself. He wanted to get the toys and give them to Toys for Tots. That's the Marines charity thing they do at Christmas. And the Marines got wind of what he was trying to do, and they showed up at the Chuck E. Cheese thing right as he was coming across his 1 million ticket line. And then they went in and they traded them all in and got all the toys, and then the Marines took those for Toys for Tots. So anytime you can hear these stories where, Americans coming through being Americans and doing what Americans do best, and that's rallying around people and rallying around causes and trying to make the world a better place. It just brightens my day because you hear it just dispels all that negativity you hear 24/7.
Yeah. So Brad, what is the number one priority for Peters Brothers Trucking?
Service. Our number one priority. Well, it's a tie. It's service and taking care of our people. we will not sacrifice service and our people for any type of profit or anything. So our number one priority, first and foremost, is our people. And then for our customers, our number one priority is our service and our word. When we say we're going to do something, we're going to say we're going to take care of something, we're going to be there. And if we're going to do everything it takes in our power to meet a gold level of service for any of our customers we do business with.
That's good.
Yeah, this is not a loaded question. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Every driver has it. There's not one out there. What are your drivers' number one complaint?
Ooh.
Can you narrow it down to just one?
No, I can't.
And this is a no holds bar, podcast.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna give you okay. First and foremost, used to be and still lingers, parking. Not enough parking. They're on e-logs, where they're supposed to stop and sleep at certain times, but then you got receivers that are night receivers, some that are day receivers. They don't let you park there. They don't let you use the bathroom there. Okay, so you're counted against there, but then there's nowhere to park. Okay, now these people our drivers, they next thing you know, to be in compliance, they got to sleep on an on ramp because everywhere else is full because a lot of these there's not enough parking to begin with, and with facilities. Now, next thing you know, just to either be in compliance, you have to sleep, 6 feet from traffic blowing by you.
yeah.
Or you have to, because we always, stress compliance, but then some of these customers, these receivers, they want you there. And if you're 1 minute late, they're going to make you wait all the time and this, that, and the third. But if you're on time, now they're going to turn around and say, okay, hey, thanks, but now you got to go. Well, I mean, you're making me deliver in the middle of the night. Like, can't you just let me, for example, if I need to take a 3-hour break, just let me, there's nowhere at 2 a.m. that I can go and get a parking spot. Can I just finish, take a 3-hour break here on my split book? Can I sleep a little bit? Then I'll get out of your hair. Nope, you got to go now. So that's one of the biggest things is parking and driver amenities, without a doubt. And another thing that I think too that we're going through right now is the push of different features in trucks nowadays that people that aren't in trucking or have never driven a truck push. For example, we got 5 brand new trucks and just some of the stuff that they're putting on the trucks nowadays, it just I get the thought process behind it. I know we're pushing fuel mileage, but a lot of the stuff there now is driver comfort is out the window. It's just everybody's putting numbers to drivers and matrices to drivers, but they're human and we got to treat them as such. And a big complaint we're getting is, hey, this thing's making me slow down, 450 feet away from a truck in a wide open road where I'm not even near anybody. And it's, we have the crash of oil. We have all the top of the line technology, because we preach safety.
That's good.
But there's with that comes too is the safety, reasonable safety, and safety on paper and, by the book that some of these manufacturers are making when they're not really testing all this stuff in adverse conditions. They're testing this stuff in perfect climates. And out here in Pennsylvania, you got hills, you got weather, in 30 minutes, you can go for all through all 4 seasons. And, you have the adaptive braking and all that stuff. Well, that works great. If I'm wired out in the middle of the road in Wyoming where it's all flat and straight, that's great. You're in a high metropolis area with different adverse conditions, let's just, these guys, it's going to break for them. I get the thought process behind it. And in a lot of cases it is good, but there's another time that, in the name of safety, we actually make things a little more unsafe. So those would be, I know you wanted one. So one would be driver parking, but another would be some of the protocols people are putting in place that they think are going to be the one thing that solves everybody's issues. And quite frankly, if they really wanted to worry about safety, they'd bring back driver education for people in cars and understand how to drive around trucks. So
That's right.
That's true.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brad. Number one, I'm going to help you out with that number one problem about your drivers not parking. Truckparking.com. Evan is a friend of mine. So after this, I will hook you up with Evan so you'll never have to park on the side of the road again. And if you want to park at 3 a.m. in the morning, he'll get you a spot. I guarantee he will. And he has great CSRs that work 24/7, 365. All it takes is a call, and they will find the closest location for your drivers to park and be safe. Because I'm a big safety guy. So I will help you so you can help your drivers so they can come to work with more smiles on their faces. All right.
Yep. So that's what it's about.
So Brad, obviously I'm on the shipper side of this equation. And one of the things I ask my carriers and brokers and drivers as I get in touch with them, what is your ideal shipper? What traits do they need to have, or what actions do they need to take that your drivers would just absolutely love pulling into their lot?
It sounds simple, but facilities, like a bathroom, not a porta john, not somewhere that I'm going to go load and I'm going to sit for 4 hours and you're going to go make the drivers sit and use a porta john like they're less than human out there. Like, listen, if some of these shippers and facilities if the people inside wouldn't use the facilities, the guys in the truck moving the freight shouldn't have to use them either. That's my biggest thing. I just can't. It chaps me when some of these guys who are running all night doing everything out there, and then they pull into some of these warehouses and are treated less than human. That's make them stand in line outside for an hour in 0-degree temperature. I think the biggest thing is the people behind the desk at these shippers. The biggest thing you can do is have somebody that is personable and decent and humane behind the counter, understanding, hey, listen, these guys go through a lot. Treat them with a little bit of dignity and respect. Cause too many times nowadays, guys, you'll hear, I can send you a list of all the bad shippers and all the bad receivers that just, they some places don't even have a porter john, and they're like, oh yeah, well, if you leave, then you're going to be late, and here's a $250 fee to come back in, when really all he's trying to do is go down the street and use the bathroom. It's that is easily just people treating people like people.
That's right. Yeah,
and that affects rates too. That affects rates. If you're not a preferred shipper, I mean, a lot of people overlook that. Brokers or assets. How can we reduce your cost? That's what I do. I just don't move trucks and say, all right, I've moved it. You take it from here, guy. Whatever happens, happens. If you want it, you want it. If you don't, you don't. No, I don't work that way. I'm not a person that works from the outside in. I work from the inside out, to your point, Brad, to find out what these problems are and how I can rectify them and be able to tell them why it's important, not just for you, but for the carrier. And if you could work amongst yourself to figure out a level playing field, this is the benefits that both get from doing so.
Yeah. And a big thing is too, like, we could be strapped to need a backhaul. I mean, we do a lot of customer direct, so it's seldom that we go to a spot market to get a load, because that's just bad news for us.
I agree.
We've just never had people that care. It's the people that you aren't, Jeff. Hey, cover this load. I'm gonna feed you a whole line, and then it's a no-win situation. But there's places that, especially in the Northeast, that if that's the only load on the board, I'll come home empty before I'll send a driver into some of these large facilities that are just terrible to these guys. And then to the same regard is what you have too is, hey, industry standards 2 hours, right? Load, unload, and you can just expect that. If you plan for a guy to be in and out of a place under 2 hours, you're setting yourself up for failure. But in the same regard, if I'm in there for 2 hours or the driver's in there for 2 hours, but you're going to take 8 hours to unload him, why do I have to wait for somebody to go to their customer to approve or deny the detention? Everybody knows these places they take a while. Okay, so I know
Are
they're
you talking about Wakefield.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, man.
yep.
Wakefern, yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely all the way.
I know Wakefern.
That's the reason why I don't do food.
It's just that's one of the places where it's like, okay, well, we're gonna have, if you're late for that appointment, okay, here, $500 on, it's 20% of the load. But they don't care that then once you sit there, they're like, oh, well, this customer, we only paid detention after 4 hours and it's $20 an hour. And now next thing you know, I sat there, I'm paying my drivers to sit there after 1 hour regardless, because it's not their fault they got to sit, and we're not going to take money out of their pockets doing the job they got to do. But at the same time, if it's going to come out of my pocket, you guys know going into these places, this is going to be like this. What are you waiting for that you got to wait to pay me because you got to talk to you guys all know that this is going to happen, and we're upfront about it, and we talk about it even if we take a load like that. Yeah, put it in. We need it on the in and out times. You do everything by the book, everything they ask, and then you turn around and it's like, oh, well, the customer's not approving it. Well, what do you mean they're not approving it? Like it's just there's a lot of bad practice that goes on.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, the driver's done the work. The driver is the one who's waiting. Obviously, if his tires aren't turning, he's not making any money. So the last person in this whole scenario that should be penalized for anything is the driver. So as a shipper myself, a couple of things as you were talking, Brad brought up some points. Number one, my tenure in this industry, I've never worked for the 800-pound gorilla shippers. I never have. It just luck of the draw. I don't know. I've always been in the medium shipper kind of area, and it's what I call ease of doing business. And that's kind of what you mentioned when you were talking about parking and facilities and letting your driver stay. That's the ease of doing business from the shippers. That's what the shipper should be doing. But when it came down to it, in my mind, every time I thought about it, I said, okay, the carrier or the broker has one truck. I need a truck, and the 800-pound gorilla needs a truck. I want to make it to the point that carrier or that broker is going to give me that truck because they like doing business with me because of the way I do my business, regardless of what the 800-pound gorilla means to them from a revenue standpoint. So that's kind of the way I look at it, and having those facilities and allowing those drivers to take their breaks on the yard and anything else you can work out gives you that edge, because you start thinking about capacity and sustainable capacity. And there are going to come times in the year and times in your tenure that it's going to come down to one truck, and you're going to need that one truck. And I've always done that, and it's always helped me out. We take care of the drivers. We don't treat them like crap. We talk to them like they're human beings. If we have a break room that they can access safely without causing disruption, then there's a coffee machine in there. Go get you a cup of coffee. Restrooms are down this way. Blah blah blah. And that makes a world of difference. And drivers will go to those places where they get treated like human beings before they'll go to the 800-pound gorilla, regardless of what the 800-pound gorilla is even paying. I could be paying less money. And the other piece of it is, to your point, and Jeff touched on it, I always say there's no such thing as a free lunch. And it's in the same way holds true for rates. If you're holding those drivers for 8 hours, it's going to show up in your rates. You may get a lucky break and not have to pay detention because you just refuse on one or two loads. But at the end of the day, when it comes back to negotiations, you're going to pay for it. So when I did my contracts, we level set expectations on what detention was, when it started, how much per hour, and before the carrier even inked the contract, they already knew what they were going to get paid. The other piece of it is if to your shipper, if the customer is disputing the detention, go ahead and pay the carrier. The driver did the work. The driver waited that time, pay them, and then you can handle your discrepancy with your customer after the fact.
Right. And that's why we focus, our business model is focused is we value relationships big time, because
Exactly.
rather than even take COVID for an example, during COVID, you could raise your rates, you could have named your price, and everybody knew after COVID, this is the market we were going to be in, right, that we're in now, right? Well, hopefully seems like we're coming out of it a little bit, but we do what's right, and we, hold to our rates and say, hey, listen, we're not going to go ahead and take you over the coals here for this. And, you build that relationship, and a lot of our relationships have been long-standing. And that's why we're, relationship centric here. Because like even talking with you, you do enough, you talk to enough people over the course, immediately how somebody answers the phone or you talk to them, you can tell, yeah, this is going to be good, or this is not going to be a good scenario. Like, this is going to be, there's been times I've talked to some people and I'm like, oh man, this will get me out of something. And I'm talking about maybe 2% of our business, right? That there's a backhaul, I got to get home, I have an extra truck. But you can get on the phone. Oh, hey, this is going to pay me more. And then, but you start talking to them and you're like, man, I can tell this is going to be issues. This is going to be a problem. They are going to, and the best part is you definitely know, and at this point it's too late, but if you're on a load and, they want the driver numbers and whatever. And if it's a team, or a group that's dispatching one load and they're calling the driver every 2 hours and like want to say, oh, well, your driver didn't answer our call when we called at 2 a.m. So we're going to reject this because he didn't answer our call. Yeah, but you called him 6 other times throughout the day, and for 10 hours he can't move and he's asleep. Like, what do you want him to do? Like, yeah, right. You can that's why we try to stay away, like, because relationships, like, if you wanted to know where the truck is, here, I'll show you right where the truck is. I'll tell you, we do not hide anything. We're right. And even to the point, one of our biggest lanes from Wisconsin back to Pennsylvania to Wisconsin, Chicago, etc. If our truck breaks down, we oftentimes have enough trucks going across that 80 corridor. Hey, it probably doesn't, it's going to cost me a little bit more, but I'll have a guy that's going past a driver that's broke down. Hey, here you go. Like, where you're going to swap trailers because we can still service the customer. Same thing we also do. Hey, driver breaks down. They don't want it. It's not their fault the truck breaks down, right? So we'll rent them a truck immediately, or we have a tow truck here. We'll tow them a truck just to get them out and going. Now you're not making anything off the next 3 loads, but you're servicing the customers and you're taking care of the people. But then there's some people that it doesn't matter what you do, and no matter how much, they're just looking to cut corners. And that's why I think working with shippers and working with brokers like Jeff, who the word broker doesn't even work for him, because he's not that mold. He's good people. He's definitely relationship centric. You work with people like that, you get a lot more done. And when you go into these places, like you're saying, hey, we're worried about the driver. We want the facilities. We want this. You can tell when you talk to people, and it speaks volumes.
Yeah, and you're 100% spot on. I mean, I've always said supply chain is a relational business, and nobody will change my mind on that. And playing those relationships and building those long time relationships, you need to be focused on the long game. And you're absolutely right. So many shippers and carriers and even brokers are focused on the short game.
Yep.
And it makes a world of difference. I mean, if you're focused on the long game and you're building relationships over, 15, 20, 30 years, even in this hard industry that we work in, it's still easier to do business that way than it is working with these short time guys who just want to, nickel and dime you and cut corners. To your point, it just doesn't, it's exhausting to me, to be honest, because you're constantly doing that. It's not like, hey, pick up the phone and I call Jeff and I've been, knowing each other for 10 years, and I say, hey man, I got this. And between the two of us, we can work it out and get it done. That's a hell of a lot easier.
Oh my God. The problem starts from the beginning of the relationship. And sometimes you just don't get that critical information, whether you're a broker, whether you're a carrier. the CRM that you have is only limited to the amount of information you can add to it. And I think that's a failure in and of itself, working with CRMs for many, many years, that it's limited to the amount of information that you can populate in that to truly understand how a facility works, and that's why I'm building my new app called AccurateShipper.info or Accurate Shipper Information, where I have like 126 or 130 checkpoints. No CRM is going to have that. That starts from the beginning of the information when you connect with a shipper and they want to do work with you. Well, this is what I need to know. That's my checklist. And once that's filled out, you're talking about detention and tonneau charges and operational hours on inbound and outbound, all that stuff, plus so much more. When that shipper, right, you heard of the Electronic Information Act of 2000, right? If you happen to send out an email and you say the rate is 5,000 and Brad gets back to me and he says, yep, that sounds good, we'll take it. Well, that's the same as an actual signature on a specific document without having the signature. So when you get that information and the shipper sends it out, it goes right out to the broker, it goes right out to the carrier and ends those questions. Oh, I never said that. Well, you filled out this form in this app and it came directly from you, and I can trace that IP address. That was you. You said that you would do this and how the hours of operation work. Here's your contacts and all of that. That's exactly what we did. So now you got the proof. No more bullshitting from a shipper side or a broker side or a carrier side. Everybody is in cahoots. Everybody understands how this account is going to work. That's what's really missing in this industry. So many apps and tools are working from the outside in, not from the inside out, which is a huge critical missing part. Show me a tool out there that does that. Show me somebody that knows all those critical touch points from an internal operation that affects the external operations on both the broker side or a carrier side or service provider, however you want to, name what your services is. It's a huge select. It really is.
I think one thing that also highlights exactly what you're saying and is the value of what you're building, Jeff, is in supply chain logistics, right? From the time somebody realizes, hey, I'm going to need more inventory, to the supplier getting that all together, and ultimately the last missing piece is getting it from point A to point B. Well, the only thing we are doing in our industry is planning, right? Making a plan, executing a plan. You can only plan for what you know. You can even plan for what you think you don't know, but there is still a level of uncertainty that you just can't plan. So if our whole business is going to be based around planning, because then I have to plan, how far the driver can drive with his hours of service, weather conditions, all these unknowns that you can make a reasonable deduction, okay, on how to be successful with that. I just need as much, and anybody, I just need to know the information that I can make a plan to be successful. I'm not sitting there trying to just take stuff just so I can haul it just because, I get the check. That's not that. And I think a lot of people on the outside, like you're saying, think it's just this simple, non-complex, chain of events that happens. Oh, it's just anybody in the industry realizes, hey, it's all it is really is planning. Well, if you withhold information or you don't have all of it, how can you make a plan?
Well, you know why they do it? I'll tell you, Brad, because they think they're pulling the wool over your eyes, saying, well, if I don't tell them this, I'm going to get a cheaper rate.
Right.
I seriously.
Right. I agree.
Because all the freaking way, because I've been on the carrier side.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this. I've called that crap out, and then when it came down to it, it was like, dude, sorry, this isn't going to work because I understand your business. There's no freaking way that what you just said is doable. It ain't going to happen,
Right.
And then you can justify the reason, the cause, and the rate,
Mm-hmm.
and throw it right back in their face. Because guess what? That's what shippers expect you to do as a service provider, right?
Mhm.
They're paying you to tell them what they want to hear, definitely, and whether or not they want to hear it, what they don't want to hear. That's what they pay you to do.
Mhm.
You know, some people won't do that. I do that because that's my life, man. That's what I did for 40 freaking years. You know, it's not all about Jeff Dickinson and his company. It's about how can I have sustainability in the industry and move my business forward, working smarter, not harder, to do more in less time, while helping all the key stakeholders that I'm doing business with, because that's what I did on the shipper side.
Yep.
You know, failure to do so, you know, leaves a hole in the line of supply chain, and I don't want to do that. I want to close those gaps. I want to close those loopholes. You know, and when you have customers that stay on board with you for 3, 4, 5 years since I started my business, it says something. You know, I don't have time to freaking go bouncing off the spot market board and looking for loads. I will not do that because, one, risk, control, right? Getting rid of fraud, double brokering. I haven't had one of those things, guys, in 40 years. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, you have to do due diligence.
Yeah,
So I have to ask you this question, Brad, because it's important. Do you think shippers are honest? And then another question: do you think brokers are honest?
I think shippers are honest because the shippers I work direct with are honest. I do not think brokers are honest. And when I say that, I'm talking like the big, like a lot of the big companies where they're just bringing in people, turnover rates high. You just got to push numbers. I don't think they're honest at all. Because there's so many times that I've caught things that have happened from brokers that they just, like you said, withhold a little bit of information to going back to that detention thing. I would be willing to bet 50% of the time I don't get detention paid. They got it from the customer. They put it in their pocket and said, "Oh, it was rejected." Now I don't trust it unless I know. Like, there's a couple people within some of those companies that I've done business with, and
Sure.
I'm like, that's the only person in that entire corporation I will do business with because they've never done me wrong. Outside of that, I do not believe brokers are honest. I believe the shippers are, and I believe the shippers, they are looking at getting the freight moved, and they're going to provide, the information that needs to get that done successfully. I think when there is an added level there of communication, a middleman in that sense, I think there's a lot of good brokers out there, but there are a good enough. There's a large enough amount that are not good, that taints the whole thing right off the beginning, and enough for me to think, yeah, listen, there's a lot of brokers out there that are not honest. Well, here, actually, I got a perfect example of this. Currently going through this right now. Here, you're just gonna get me on you got me on the right day.
Oh, sorry, open up.
No, but and I'll keep this short too. The short version is, since COVID, nowhere really leaves you on the dock as a driver, right? They just, ever since that happened during COVID, not a lot of places you're allowed on the dock. They just, we'll come out, we'll get you, we'll open your doors from the inside, we'll load you, we'll seal it up. That's that. So that was the case down at a shipper we were at. Brought a load up, delivered. Now, truckload, right? They loaded it, they sealed it, we went up, we delivered. Next thing you know, there are 50 cases that are damaged. Right now, all of us in this room here know there's not too much a driver could have done to damage. 50 cases. It wasn't a whole pallet. It was the bottom 50 cases on one pallet. The rest of the load was fine. What do? They try to claim us for, not only were they not, or do they not want to pay call it a $2,000 load. Okay. Because, you didn't ship it. You didn't execute it to the fullest degree. And there was a claim. So they're not going to pay that.
Was it an SLC?
Huh?
Was it an SLC?
What do you mean by that?
Shipper load account.
No, it was not. Oh yeah. Shipper load account. Yes, it was.
With
yes,
a seal on it.
But that, yeah, they put a seal on it and we signed it. Well, here's where it gets dishonest, because testament to our drivers are good people, and they loaded it, comes up, we go deliver. There's those rejections. Now they're not going to pay us for the load. They're not going to pay us for the detention. We sat there for 5 hours, and they're claiming us for the product. Okay. And they come back to us and say, hey, was the driver on the dock monitoring whether or not the freight was good to go in the trailer? And we said the driver said he was not on the dock because when we got the load, you told us you wanted the driver on the dock. The driver, and it was a 7 o'clock at night load situation. So the brokers weren't even there, and you couldn't get a hold of nobody to begin with. Anyway, driver was not allowed on the dock. This all happens, and they turn around and say, well, was your driver on the dock? Well, we weren't allowed to be. And then they get the shipper, and they're like, oh, yeah, he was allowed. He was, listen, I'm a very honest individual. The driver was not allowed on that dock. And because he called me, and I tried to get a hold. But now it's all through phone, and it's all he said, she said, and even in email, because we have email chain back and forth. We were not allowed on the dock. They still just straight up refuse to A, pay us for the load, B, pay us the detention, and want to claim us for those 50 cases that are twice what the load was supposed to pay in the first place. So when you come to are they dishonest? That's what we're going through. Now, do I think the shipper is like that? Absolutely not. I don't think the shipper is trying to set anything up. Why would a shipper want 50 cases to get their damage when now they're going to have to resupply it again or anything like that? I don't think that's the case. What do I think the case is? Yeah, something happens. There's going to be a claim somewhere, but the broker's going to cover themselves. Oh, hey, look, we always have this problem at this loader, the shipper, but we'll get it done, no problem. You won't have, if you go with us as your broker, you won't have to worry about it. And then they push it onto the company. And from like the day we delivered, we had email chain with the broker. Hey, that we're trying to rectify. We will bring it back. We'll take it back down to North Carolina for you for free. That we didn't do anything wrong. We told you that day, hey, we will take it back down. Clearly, you guys loaded it. It was the bottom of a pallet. Something happened in transition. It left in North Carolina, went straight to the delivery. There was an issue. But we will take it back down for free so you guys can salvage the product. Because we're talking damage. I mean, like boxes were crumpled. That's it. It's not like they were split. It's not like they were open. It's not like any of there was a detriment.
They just need to be repackaged.
Yeah, that's all it needed to be. And we'll take it down for you for free because we do LTL. We'll just drop it all for free. Crickets from the broker. Next thing you know, we get conversation from a claims department. Hey, this is your bill. You need to pay us. Whoa, we were just trying to have the conversation. We were trying to rectify it, and it wasn't even our fault in the beginning. So, yeah, that's par for the course with a lot of these situations now. That's why relationships with the shippers and good brokers that are looking to develop relationships, like you would never do that to me. You would never do that to me, Jeff. And that's why I work with somebody like you. And the shippers direct. I can honestly say I've never had a bad experience with a shipper that I was working with directly. It's just when there's that middleman, it's just, I think there's bad practice there, just to make an extra dollar off of. I can't explain why, but that is the biggest disappointment in all this. And now you have to turn around and you're asking your driver all these questions. Now it sounds like I'm interrogating my driver who just did his job and did everything I asked. And it's not because I don't think he did something wrong. It's just I got to have my answers for when they ask the questions. And they, in my opinion, I believe they knew going into it it's a problem. That's why they made point to make mention of that, because nobody ever asks you to go on the dock anymore for liability reasons.
Right.
And we tried to follow it to a T because it smelled fishy from the beginning. And it's just that's the frustration.
So I got two final questions for you. All right, and I believe both of them are extremely important. How can shippers, brokers, and carriers work better amongst themselves?
I think if there was communication with all three parties involved, that would be a lot better. And I understand people are concerned about, hey, maybe the carrier goes direct with the shipper and backdoors the broker. I can see that from a broker standpoint. But if you have a way, because the broker has a contact with the shipper, they clearly have somebody to answer to. If we could, if rather than it being a broker to a driver, in the scenarios in which you're using a broker that is not relationship centric, I think you got to get all the information and be able to say, hey, this is what's going on. You know, everything you mentioned about the platform you're developing. We just need all the parties at the table. So if something happens, how do we solve it? Because at the end of the day, we just want to get your freight delivered. That's it. That's all we want to do. That's our job in a nutshell. Point A, point B.
And honestly, if that broker has carriers that will backdoor him, he doesn't need to be doing business with them anyway.
No.
Correct. Like I would never, even if I work for somebody and I say, and they're doing something with a company that on a different lane that I don't typically do, right up front, I'll say, hey, listen, just so you know, I do with this company, I work with this part of that company's division. We just want you to know straight up front and be honest, so you don't think there's a conflict of interest. That's who we are. Right, like you said, if you're worried about a carrier backdooring you, I mean, why do you even want to do it in the first place with them?
Yeah, yeah. I've had a few carriers come to me and try to backdoor my brokers, and I'll tell you flat out, I don't play that game.
Nope.
And I will notify the broker, and I will tell them, look, carrier ABC is backdooring you. I'm not going to do business with carrier ABC because I have the relationship with you. So backdooring brokers is a temporary solution to a permanent problem.
Yeah, exactly.
That definitely all the way. Now, Brad, get ready. This is the hottest topic that's out there right now, and I want to know what Peters Brothers Trucking feels about this.
Okay.
What do you think about the broker carrier transparency problem that they're fighting right now? What's your stance on that?
The broker carrier transparency that they're like, why brokers and carriers are not being completely transparent with each other
as far as rates and what they're buying, what they're getting from the carrier and what they're charging the shipper, and knowing what the margin is. What's your take on that?
My take is that's a really good question. My take would be, I think everything as a whole is so razor tight to begin with. Okay. When you look at it from a trucking perspective, cost of parts, cost of insurance, cost of everything costs more. I think what everybody's trying to do is one up the next guy. Like the broker's trying to make that extra dollar off the carrier, or the carrier's out there like, listen, you guys are the rates right now are so low. I need every dollar I can just to stay in business. I think the biggest issue revolves around there is a lost art of building relationships that people can trust, that they can flow through, that I can tell you, whether you want to hear it or not, I'm going to give you the honest opinion and scenario, and we're just going to work through it because I'm not going to hide it from you. I think brokers have the same stories with trucking companies like I do with some brokers. Hey, they're dishonest. They're just out there. They're going to say they're going to do this. I think it stems truthfully, and it was a problem for a while, but I think the pandemic really accelerated this in the sense of for a couple years, you never had to go see people in person. You couldn't. You had an excuse, and everybody just got used to, hey, I'm going to just post stuff on a board, post stuff on an internet, post it out there. There is very limited interaction between people. It's all just basically like you're bidding on something on eBay. So therefore, what I think the transparency issue is, these brokers, these carriers are not learning the people they're working with. There's never that opportunity for that interaction. Therefore, there can be no trust built. Therefore, everything's held so tight to the chest because when carrier A is done with this load, I'll never talk to him again. I just got him off a random board. What's the odds that I'm going to have to work with them again? Same for a carrier. Well, this guy's not really talking to me. I'll get through this load. What's the odds that I'm going to work with them again? Because there's such a large number of brokers out there and a large number of carriers out there that the whole industry is inundated. that there is very limited accountability. The only ones that hold accountability are the good shippers, are the good brokers, are the good carriers that say, hey, yeah, listen, this happened. It's an issue. I'm wrong. Like I thought this guy had more hours of service to run it. I made a mistake, and not just, okay, hey, we're going to ding you $500. Listen, we're talking about humans. You know what I mean? Like so there is going to be a margin of error somewhere. I think the whole, we're going to ding everybody on every little thing just to put a little bit more in our pocket. I truthfully believe technology has failed the industry in this sense because it's supposed to give you more transparency. It's just been less because there's brokers I do stuff, they'll just refuse to answer the phone. It's all through the computer. That's it. Done. Black, white. We're not even going to talk. That's how I would answer.
So let me ask you this, Brad. Do you think carriers have the right to know what brokers are charging their shippers and what they're making out?
I listen. I think, from a business standpoint, from the broker side, I think that'd probably be a little hard. From a carrier standpoint, I think it would make sense because, hey, if you're making $1,000 off this load, right, when the market's not, and you're going to turn around and sell a load that you're going to go from here to Wisconsin and pay a carrier $900. But fuel's 40 cents a mile. It's 840 miles. Fuel's 42 cents a mile. $150 in tolls going out across that way. I'm left with $100 all said and done for myself. And that's just saying, hey, I'm not paying for the truck, the maintenance, anything like that. I think what is needed is almost a floor on a rate per mile that you can't go below, because at that point, it's just the people that are going to do it for not that below market rate for these brokers to make a ton of money off of. That's what's ruining a lot of this. But to answer your questions, I think it would be awesome if it was if you came up to me, or if I'm working with a broker and says, hey, listen, you want $3,000 to come back from Texas. My rate, I'll show you what mine is. I am taking 3% off the top. That's what I do. Here's what it is. Here's where I'm at. Here's the best I can do. Cool. Let's just take all the negotiating out of the table. I'm doing the work. Why should you be making more profit off a load you have no risk for than me when I have all the risks and the costs involved? I think that'd be awesome. I mean, we work with a couple brokers where like they'll say, hey, this is what I'm getting paid. They'll show it right on the line item. What I'm getting paid, my reduction, here's to you. Cool. I'm not even talking to you about the rate anymore. We're good. Because I trust you. So yeah, I think that would make the whole industry better off to begin with. Hey, here's what I'm getting paid. This is my percentage of what I'm taking. Here you go.
So you're basically talking a cost plus.
Yeah.
So you already know what we're going to put on top of your rate.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a firm believer everybody in this business should make money. We don't do it for free. If you're a shipper, a broker, carrier, doesn't matter, a consumer, whatever, you're not going to argue the fact and go to, a car dealer and saying, I'm paying $7,000 over manufacturer retail price. Why?
Right.
Okay, can you take 1,000? They'll negotiate whatever, but the car dealership's still going to make that money on top of that, whatever that margin is, because they have backbone, just like you have support that supports you as a carrier as well. That does a lot of the paperwork and the route designs and everything outside of what you don't do. You pay them to do that job, right?
Yeah.
And we know that. Okay, that's fine. We understand it. But what's reasonable, what's not reasonable is $500 on a load, $1,000, $200 on a load, $350. What is that magic number? Or is there a magic number? I mean.
Hey guys, sorry, I've got a hard stop here in 2 minutes. I'm gonna.
Yeah, so do I. So, Brad, I appreciate you coming on board and joining John and us today. Love to have you back with some other carriers, because we would love to have like a round table of carriers, John and myself, and just discuss these things a little bit further to drive some points home how to make things work and how to collaborate better between brokers, carriers, and shippers, and try to find that equal balance where, we can make everybody like a happy family that can get along and understand how each other works. Because I know that there's a huge gap on the learning side of how each segment of the supply chain, the three, shippers, carriers, and brokers work, and how they work. And if we understand each other, I think it would be a better industry as a whole.
I love the conversation. I appreciate your guys' time. Appreciate the conversation. It feels good to talk to people that understand it and feel. You know what I mean?
Yep. Appreciate you having on. Appreciate you taking the time, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Anytime.
All right, my friends. We will. Everybody, John and I will see you next. I don't think we have a show on. We do on the 20th. Sorry, I'm way ahead of it.
Well, if I don't talk to you guys before then, have a very Merry Christmas. You guys,
you as well. So John and I will see you next week at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you.